It is showtime. How are we going, everybody? Welcome in. Nice to see that we've got a few people sitting in the chat waiting. Damo, how are you, mate?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Glad to be back live, and thank you to the lads already waiting in the chat. And yes, I am still around. It is Damo. I know I haven't been live for a week, but I'm here.
Yeah, that's all we want to hear. Obviously, we're kicking on. It's been a while. It's been a bit of a hectic period. I think I've done one video for the channel, but other than that, it has been a bit chaotic. I think the last game we did one
Last week.
early last week. So it's been
Yeah.
like a week and a bit between streams. So there has been a lot that's happened. But obviously we'll unpack all of that as we go. So hopefully we'll get a few extras rolling in. I don't want to get straight into the nooks and crannies of everything straight away, but hopefully you guys have been enjoying the content here on FPL Departer. There's been lots happening over on Twitter, so make sure you get over to the Twitter page and follow FPL Departer over on Twitter. Dom's doing a good job at running that. How you going, Dim? Can see you there in the chat. And then I've also been posting some videos, a few longer ones and a few shorter ones on our YouTube page as well. So if you've come over recently and seen some of the views and you're here for the live stream, then welcome along. You'll be part of our journey. As you would have seen on my preview video, you'd see sort of my ranking at the moment. Obviously, there's been some things that we've all done this season that have contributed to our rankings being not in the best shape. But look, end of the day, we're only going into match week 11. We're a third of the way through the season, or just under a third of the way through the season. There's plenty of time to not have to panic on rankings and stuff like that. The amount of videos I've been seeing of people go, yeah, last year I was 2.5 million after 15 rounds and got into the top 30K. It's doable. It's just we got to try and really come on with an analytical approach and really start looking at the data more so than anything, because we really need to make these choices that we get right. And it's probably time for us to maybe try and, as a group collectively, because we're all sort of around the same mark now. You've really come up the last couple of weeks, Damo, and caught up to Dom. We've overtaken Dom, actually. And me and you, there's only a couple points in it. I've just been the last few weeks getting little green arrows and just chip, 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 where you've just blown it out the water lately. But what I might do...
His name is Bowen.
We might hand over to Damo to kick us off tonight. Do you want to go through a bit of your last game week first and roll that into what you're planning on doing now?
Of course I can. Now, if I press the right button here, Microsoft tab and latest points, you should be able to see on my screen that I got 70 points last week.
Yep, we're up and running.
Yep, and that's Trent with a 0 off the bench because I had Mitrovic starting, and there you go. As you can see, I green arrows everywhere. A Zep in my head-to-head league because I drew with 70 points because off the bench, I got nothing, and I think the guy I played off the bench had Andreas as his first sub.
Fantastic.
And we tied. So it was great. It kind of sums up how it's going. But another green arrow, up to 3.3 mil. This time 2 weeks ago, I was 5.7 mil in the world. So it's been a pretty good run. Climbed over a couple of mil in a space of 2 weeks. If I keep going at this rate, I'll be inside the top mil by the World Cup, which I highly doubt, as I think ranks will get pretty close. I just feel like if you're always inside or around the top 2 million rank every game with 10 million managers, you're doing well.
Yeah.
So there 100%. We are. In terms of the team itself, that's how it looks. I have made a transfer for this week already, which I'll touch on in a second, and toyed with this one a lot. At one stage, it was Andreas first sub. One stage, it was Trent. And the only reason I went Trent is I'm like, if I've got a premium on the bench and we know that Trent could get a goal and an assist if he actually decides to turn it on, it would be all right. It's just the fact that he gets injured as well with that. It's just a bit annoying. You know, Arsenal maybe were there for the taking for Liverpool at times. At times, Arsenal looked incredible. I'm just really happy that, you know, there was a temptation also to drop Martinelli, but the way we're defending, I wouldn't. And the other person I want to sing out is Jesus. He's been consistent all year. Lots of 6 and 8s with a 19 and a 5 again. I haven't dropped him once. He's been in the team the whole time. And it's just another one of those where everyone's trying to get off him and everything. He's just been ticking along. And that's exactly what you want from an 8 mil asset. Just keep ticking along. Cancelo, obviously, we know that's in his locker. Do think now that since they've been playing, what's his name at right back, who's staying home a bit more?
Akanji.
Yeah. He's been bombing on a lot more and actually looking like the old Cancelo of old, which is good because he's getting a bit more aggressive, which leads me to one of my points where I might hold him for this week against Liverpool, apart from us being horrid. Trippier's good. More importantly, though, for me, it's been this man. This man's been the reason I've gone up the ranks. A lot of people are like, Damien, don't do it. Don't do it. There's been no evidence of him being good. Don't touch him.
Yeah.
I'm
mad because I loved him and I sung his praises at the start of the season. And I had drafts where he was in my team. But the only reason it was the fixtures.
Yeah.
But anyway,
look,
he's been so good.
Good fixtures for good players breed good results. Even without no form underlying data, good players don't become bad overnight. Hence why you will see probably Salah against Forest find a couple of returns, or Trent after the World Cup with some better fixtures, he might click over, right?
Yeah.
But for me, Bowen was a must. I feel like with the fixtures where I was, it was a must. Same way getting Maddison in. Now, Maddison did blank last week, but he got 18 the week before. Zaha with the fixtures. It wasn't a goal and an assist and a penalty and everything we wanted, but it's 5 points. And he's got the fixtures coming up that, fixtures breed.
Fixtures and good players are a good combo.
Yeah, exactly. They just breed good results. It does lead me into a very interesting part for next week, which I can jump into right now.
Yeah, might as well.
And the interesting part is if I go to pick team, is I have made the one change, and I'll highlight that one change. I have taken out Trent straight off the bat. He's out for the next couple of weeks, which I think is actually in the next 3 or 4 game weeks.
Yeah.
I need as many players playing for next game week, which is the blank game week for City and for Arsenal. Brentford haven't been their best. Do I think Brentford can score? I do.
I love this for the next week, though. I love the Brighton defenders for that game week 12 blank.
Yeah, and that's the main reason, because I think after that, I'll then maybe ship him out or maybe bench him and actually bring in another defender. Now, if you count how many Arsenal and City players there are, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Ooh. Do I want to get rid of any of them?
No.
Jesus is ticking. Haaland, you can't sell. Martinelli, there's too much value in his Arsenal's biggest asset at the minute. And Cancelo is the most assured way into that City defense without any risk of rotation. And he's got the highest ceiling because he can do what he did on the weekend.
Yeah.
I sit here thinking about next game week, and I actually think about rolling and playing with 10.
Oh,
because I don't want to get rid of any
transfer
of them.
Next week.
Not making a transfer, not bringing.
Have you got one free up your sleeve at the moment?
No, I've got none.
Okay,
right?
none.
So not making one transfer, leaving the one transfer in the bank, getting to 2 the week after, because then it allows me to go, well, Maddison, 1 more week against Wolves, I can probably go to Foden or go to Foden straight away, because the Wolves aren't the worst defensively. Yeah, and it allows me to move Emerson to another defender with better fixture run. I'm thinking maybe one of the Palace defenders, or we'll look at someone else down the line.
Or Everton.
Yeah, or Everton. And that allows me then to bench Dunk instead of get rid of Dunk and then pick Dunk in the fixtures that are a bit easier coming up for the World Cup.
Yeah, I like that.
And that's where I'm leaning. 1 week of hurt next game week. Still could do okay, because I still reckon there's going to be a lot of managers out there who are either not paying attention that are ahead of us that still won't make transfers, or a lot of people that are going to make transfers to get Martinelli, Cancelo and all them out and then not get them back in, and we'll overtake them in game weeks 13, 14 because we've got these players with good fixtures coming through.
Or the other thing that I've been thinking about as well is there's that many people that have used chips already as well. People will use a free hit. Those casual managers will use a free hit next week as well. People will have Haaland still captain, like just as an auto lock, and not realize, like those people that don't play. So definitely next week, there's massive potential to jump ahead.
But their vice captain will be who gets the thing.
But they could have it on De Bruyne or Cancelo. Who knows? It's a very unlikely situation, but you never know. But obviously, I want to talk about next week as well, because it is a big one, and our teams are sort of in similar spaces. They're not exactly the same, but there's a lot of similarity between our teams. Emerson's someone who we both share. What I might do is I might pick. Well, I'll share my points first as well. I'll just, for those that haven't watched the video, I will
get your points up. I will as Paul does that. I do want to share the note. James, I think, could be available this week. Mitrovic, I do think, will be available. So, and even if it means benching James this week, which I have at the minute, then I obviously would go for James next week with Mitrovic giving me my 10, which I think they're going to be playing.
So the main difference here is, I finished 6 points behind you, and I was almost 4 million in game week rank. So there's still not much in it. Like the fact that you got 6 more points and I finished almost 2 million spots behind you for the week shows that there's not heaps of room for variation. So 64 points on the week. Pope, it just clean sheets have not been kind to Newcastle. They're not conceding goals. Like they've only had one game where they've conceded more than one, but they've only kept 2 clean sheets for the whole season, 3 for the whole season. So I'm very hopeful that Nick Pope can keep a clean sheet because those points would be fantastic. Because
even against
I feel like I'm just burning points. We never know. They could. Like they are a good defense, and the goals that they've conceded, in particular against it was the Fulham and the Bournemouth games, were just stupid goals that they shouldn't be conceding. Like, end of the day, it's 8 points that I don't have and potential bonus points that we should have, but they've switched off at some point. But anyway, that's Newcastle.
I think this week they'll be a bit more switched on defensively because that's United. B, Pope loves a big save. I just feel like this is a game where even if he concedes, he makes 5, 6 saves, he's going to get a couple bonus points for saves. I think this would be a week where Pope would get more than 2.
I hope so. Anyway, you've touched on Cancelo. He looked fantastic against Southampton. Guehi, again, just brought him in this week for Trent. Well, last week for Trent. Just wanted to get ahead of the curve. 90 minutes, 1 goal conceded was, again, frustrating that Leeds managed to jag one there. Again, not ideal, but I think long-term Guehi's going to be someone who'll play a lot of minutes for me and obviously trying to just bank on that clean sheet. Trippier doing what Trippier does. Emerson come on for me for Mitrovic, and he's someone who's causing me some headaches, which I'll get into in a minute. Salah, 68 minutes, 2 points against Arsenal. Really disappointing. Didn't even look involved in the game at all. He just was stuck out there on the wing and everything happened through the middle and off the left. And we'll touch base on Salah in a minute because he's going to be very much of my discussions. If you've seen any of my own videos this week, I've spoken quite a lot about Mohamed Salah. So I'll get into that a bit later. I brought Maddison in this game week. I can't remember who for at this point, but anyway, brought in Maddison. Obviously, looking at Bournemouth, Palace, Leeds, and Wolves as a run of 4 games, I was like, yes, please, coming off of his 18 points. Wasn't the return I was hoping for from him. I was looking at Phil Foden, but obviously the thing that turned me away from Phil Foden was the blank coming up. So I was like, and I couldn't actually do it anyway because I got Bernardo. So I was like, well, Maddison's the next best anyway. My concern for Maddison is the 4 yellow cards. Now, if he gets booked this week, we're screwed. We are screwed if he gets booked this week. So hopefully, Crystal Palace at home, just please don't get booked. We'll just have to try and ride that out. Martinelli, unbelievable. Bernardo, no one talks about Bernardo. Look, I brought him in. Yeah, I brought him in for this Forest game. Oh, God. I brought him in for Forest. I've got 6'3", 6'5'3" out of him. For a 7 mil midfielder, not the worst. But unfortunately, it's time for me to say adios to Bernardo because similar to Damo, I've had 5 players, including Saliba, that are involved in this game week 12 rearrangement. So that's obviously not ideal. And then Haaland and Ivan Toney gets his goal again, does big boy Ivan, and he just keeps ticking. Similar to Jesus, not as much as Jesus, but he's obviously a full $1 million cheaper. But I'd say that their returns are pretty similar so far. So I'm pretty happy still with Ivan Toney. Would love Mitrovic in the team and Gross and Saliba. But my thing is I've made 2 transfers. I've taken a -4 this week to get the midfield looking like that. And when I look at that midfield, I go, that is very, very good. When I go Maddison, Martinelli, Bowen, Zaha, Gross, that makes me feel very excited. So obviously the way I've done this is Mo Salah's gone out. And now a lot of people have been in my mentions, particularly yesterday after Salah scored his hat-trick. And I'd put a lot of content out talking about how Salah's Liverpool career is over and all the rest of it. Now, was I looking and baiting a few people? Yeah, I probably was. But the difference, and I've been talking to people in person today, is it wasn't the Salah role that he's been playing in the Premier League anyway. He come on for Nunes through the middle. And obviously, I'd made those transfers before the game. And that was probably stupid of me, to be perfectly honest. But I was a bit reactionary. Do I believe Salah's going to play in that role against Man City? No. I really can't see Klopp moving him into a central role from the start against Man City because Bobby has just been on another level. He's probably the best run of games Bobby's ever had with regards to returns more than performance.
Yep.
And you're not going to drop your new £80 million striker that scored 2 in 2 as well. So there's just not a way that I see Salah starting in the middle anytime soon. So the fact that he'll fit in on the right sort of alludes me to the point that he'll probably stay on the right. And the more he's on the right, especially without Trent out there, he's going to be very removed from the play. Now, if he starts in the middle, I'm going to be watching that game going, oh, crap, oh, crap, oh, crap, oh, crap, every time he gets near the ball. But I think a lot of people are saying, don't take the -4. Salah will come good. It's not that it's Salah -4. Is the combination of Bowen and Zaha better than the combination of Salah Bernardo with a blank next week as well? And that's how I've justified this move. I think this week, Bowen and Zaha probably will outscore Salah and Bernardo. And next week, that combination would outscore them again. So that's how I'm justifying, you know what I mean? Like, it's a -4 right now, but after 2 game weeks, I'm going to come out potentially miles ahead than if I had Bernardo and Salah. Now, obviously, that means I've got one move for next week. You can probably pick who that move might be, Damo, but it's going to be Saliba because at least that allows me to have 3 Arsenal and City guys on my bench. Now, whether Emerson plays or not the next week, he could be the one that leaves me with 10, and I just go, whatever, he's fallen out of favor. It is what it is. But at least I'm putting myself in a position next week to have a full 11. And then you actually mentioned my next move straight out already. I've got money in the bank. I've got 4 million in the bank at the moment.
Yeah, I got 3.2, I think.
And it's Gross to Foden. So my midfield is going to be Maddison, Foden, Martinelli, Bowen, Zaha for a couple of weeks before Maddison goes out. And whether that ends up being Andreas and Tony turns into Nunes or something like that, then I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But going into game week 13, my team will be very much 3-5-2, and I'll be picking the best fixture out of Tony and Mitrovic for a couple of weeks before I set that up. Now, I'm at 3.2 mil overall rank. But if you told me my team had, and the defender that's coming in is probably going to be like Webster or something as well. I thought about that because I want that Nottingham Forest fixture. But if you told me my back 3 was going to be Cancelo, Trippier, and then one of Guehi and Brighton, more than happy to run 3 of those every week. You tell me my midfield is going to be a Foden in form of his life, Maddison, Martinelli, Bowen, Zaha, and then I've got Haaland and a choice of Mitro and Tony. I'm very, very content with that team. And if things don't work out, then at least I know I've got players that are in form, that have good fixtures, and I can get to that World Cup. Even if it doesn't work out for me, I'll be in a position where I go, look, I made the right choices. We obviously made one. We both made one really poor choice. Really, that's all it's come down to. When you lose out on 2 hat-tricks from Erling Haaland, that's going to take a while to come back. So I think you've got everything else other than that, we've been very similar in our teams. So I think we're just going to slowly climb up these ranks together because our teams are pretty similar, but it is what it is, and we'll go from there. So that's where my team's at. Hopefully game week 13, which is next weekend, we will be ready to go. Obviously, Mitrovic this week is a concern. I think he plays.
I think he does.
But if he doesn't, at least I've got Pascal Gross sitting there ready to go just in case against Brentford. I'm more than happy for that game to have lots of goals in it because if it's Tony and Gross that are involved,
you're happy.
I'm happy, but I can't bench Mitrovic against Bournemouth. I'd rather take the risk that he doesn't play and if Gross does well. But if Gross plays and just does what Gross does, and then Mitrovic does play and scores against Bournemouth, I'm going to cry if that's what happens. So I think I'd rather take the 1 point from Mitrovic if he gets hurt again. But run the risk of Bournemouth at home. Albeit though that Bournemouth isn't the worst fixture. Isn't the best fixture. Because we've started a lot of assets against Bournemouth, and they're not really conceding a whole lot of goals at the moment. But I still think Mitrovic is just he's also
Yeah,
playing
I
out of
do
the
too.
skin.
Yeah. And
But
the fixture.
that alludes to the main topic of discussion for this podcast is this major injury crisis. Now, we've spoken a few times about what's been going on with defenders. Who can we have? Who are the premium defenders? There's not a lot of them standing anymore. So that's my main concern. Obviously, we've lost 2 premium defenders potentially this week in Trent or Reece James. Now, you've been obviously put in this position and you've transferred Trent out. So do you want to talk to the viewers around sort of your decision making around who you've brought in? Obviously, you went after Dunk, didn't you? So we've targeted that fixture in game week 12 more so.
Yep.
But
It was a coin flip between him and Webster, to be fair. I could have gone Webster. Part of me wishes I did go Webster because I do think there's a little bit more excitement, maybe because he gets a bonus point a bit more often than not. But I think just Dunk's a touch more nailed. And I want to make sure that someone does play. I think they're both as nailed as each other, though. I think if one scores well, the other one scores well anyway. So,
and if one's going to get a goal, then it's just going to be potluck anyway, or from a corner.
Which one is going to get the header from the corner? We've seen Dunk do it, and we've seen Webster do it. So
it
was a toss up. It was always going to be one of them two, though, because we do have the fixture. If I was someone higher up in the ranks, Estupian is someone I definitely probably would have went for. Bit more exciting if he starts, could get an assist, a goal, a return, bombing on, would be great. But because we're a little bit further down the rank, I want to lock up a player that's going to start and likely get a clean sheet. And I know at a minimum, it's probably 6 points. But if Stupian does not play, it comes to the bench in the 80th minute, 70th minute.
Yeah, one.
And I'm only getting 1 point where my other options are getting 6. So they're scoring him by 5. So just to limit that, just to limit that variance, I've gone with a player that I think is going to start and go boop. Hopefully Dunk doesn't get suspended this week. That would be a nightmare. And the only reason I didn't take James out was because I'm not scared of taking hits, especially at our rank now. I just feel like getting your team right is as paramount as taking a hit. Right now, I feel like I was high up in the ranks, so I start protecting my rank by not taking hits. But because I'm so low, as much as it's a hit away from points, if that hit's gonna, if the person you bring in is gonna outscore the hit, then it's okay, and that sets you up for future game weeks. And it's the only reason I haven't gone for James is because I don't want to take that hit. And I think James, do I think he plays this week? It's a toss up. I hope he does. And if there is any team news that he does, I'm actually going to put Dunk on the bench and play James. And then that Brentford game can have as many goals as I want.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So I guess the other factor in it though as well is that James is probably more likely long term to still play next week too, more so than Trent. So obviously Trent being a longer injury risk is not ideal for FPL owners. I think your hands are tied if you've got Trent anyway, because it looks like he's going to miss a couple weeks. So, you don't really get a choice. I guess the good thing with having Trent in that point is you can pivot to whoever you want as well. That's probably the other factor in it all as well. You're not handcuffed unless you've got 2 players or 3 players already from a club. But I can't imagine what club you've got 3 players from that's not City or Arsenal. And by now you really shouldn't have 3s of any of them. Otherwise you're going to miss out a lot on next week. So I think that's the main bit. Obviously, Mitrovic, I think he's just taken a price drop again. People panicking. No issue to worry.
Taking him out before Bournemouth, can you?
Nah, no way.
Especially when they came out. They came out and said last week that he was touch and go, had a bit of a setback. He's more than likely, if you read between Marco Silva's poor English, he's more than likely to start this game week.
Yeah. And it was more the fact that he was in training last week too. So, like, by the end of last week, he was training alone. There's no issue there for me. Like, if he doesn't play, then cool. Like, you should have enough coverage on your bench.
I got
one more
Andreas.
week.
I got Andreas sitting there.
Well, if you got Andreas.
Same person, just replace.
Yeah. So, look, I think from an injury perspective, they're the 3 main ones, aren't they? I don't think there's really anyone else that's missing.
Harry Kane's now fit.
Yeah, he had the marker thing removed.
Yeah, but then they didn't play in the Champions League and the marks come off him. I think he's fit. I just feel like if you've got Trent, unless you've got a really good bench, I would reinvest the money, especially with how poor we've been defensively. Like, if we were in the form of our lives and Trent's getting points and this injury came, by all means, put him as your third sub and just let him sit there. But I think with the way we've gone about it, the fact against Rangers, we played Gomez and we looked way more defensively solid. Yes, it was Rangers, and yes, we still conceded. Probably shows that Trent might slowly creep into the side. I think there's a world where Simicas and,
Well, Robbo
Milner
came
got
on as
played
well, though.
right back, or, Robertson comes inverted or something like that could happen as well.
Ramsey.
Yeah, there's a lot of options there where Trent gets a little bit more of an extended rest or extended period to recover just because the form might be an upturn. Like if we somehow beat City this week and then Trent's like, oh, I'm starting to be available, does Klopp change that? Probably not. I wouldn't. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's one of those ones with Trent where the upside of selling him and downgrading him and then having the money elsewhere is probably better than holding Trent for this 2 weeks.
Yeah, 100%, especially next week when everyone's got players missing and all the rest of it as well, which definitely is not going to help the situation. So I think there's no point holding onto an asset that's going to be depreciating in value because everyone else is jumping off of him as well. So look, someone else who I've done a video on this week who is another Brighton player. I think there's a bit of Brighton bias at the moment on our content because they're just so good at the moment, is Leandro Trossard. So he was someone who I was in a really awkward position this week if I didn't sell Salah. So the reason why I sold Salah was to get the team that I've got.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because I only had 0.2 in the bank. My best case scenario was Bernardo straight to Zaha. Yeah. And I couldn't do that. I was 0.1 off. And I was like, God damn it. I then had to make the decision. And I really do like Trossard for the next 2 weeks. But I couldn't justify then having Gross, Trossard, and a Brighton defender for next week, and probably having to ride them all to the World Cup. That was the only reason I didn't go Trossard. If you're in a position where you are wanting to take a 2-week punt to get through this weekend and the midweek games, Trossard is as good as any mid-price midfielder to have that punt. To play Brentford tonight or tomorrow, or today if you're watching in England, and then Nottingham Forest, you're not going to get two better fixtures for someone who's in the form of their lives as well. So I don't want to sound like we're discrediting Trossard. It's just that after the Forest game, the fixtures aren't fantastic from an attacking perspective. So that's why I'm like, do I go Trossard, take the 2 weeks, and then reevaluate after 2 weeks? Or do I want to go take the -4, set, forget, and get myself practically to the World Cup, obviously needing to upgrade Pascal Gross? So I obviously had a leg into the Brighton midfield anyway. So I didn't really want to go double down Brighton, then triple up Brighton for Forest. Pardon me. Yeah. Because I've been burnt by the double up Newcastle double defense a little bit.
Yep.
More so that Trippier saved my ass a few times and managed to get an assist and a bonus point and still tick along with sevens. But I didn't want to go double Brighton, attack or midfield, and then them to draw 0-0 or to win 1-0 or even 2-1. But, to only get one of them involved, it's just it's a lot of equity involved in a club that haven't had the track record to show that you can support two attacking assets.
Yeah.
Trossard is definitely the asset to own and not Gross, but having Gross made it a lot harder for me to justify having him, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's why I got Gross out a while ago. Is right there to allow me to get Trossard if I want him, which I do. Am I game enough to sell Martinelli for a 1 week punt next week?
No.
Because I want Martinelli straight back and the value. I lose 0.4 mil by doing that.
Yeah. It's just not worth it.
Nah.
Yeah. It's just exactly not worth it. So, look, I think that's the main topic. We've got a few teams to go through. And, Dame, you might sort of think of a couple questions you might want to propose to me whilst we go through this. So we've got Dim's team up first here. So hopefully this looks okay.
It should be fine. Yep, got it.
Yeah, that looks good. So Dim's team at the moment is Pope, Cancelo, Trippier, James. Obviously, he's got Guehi there first sub. So he's sort of doing what you're planning on doing. You start Reece James against Aston Villa. If he doesn't play, you've got your defender locked in at sub 1.
Yeah.
Then he's gone Son, captain. What's his name? Cordova, Reed, De Bruyne, Andreas, Edouard, Mitrovic, Haaland.
Triple
Fulham, double Palace. It's very interesting. I like the fact that it's very differential based. I just don't know how I feel about triple Fulham. And Cordova Reed last week played at right wing back as well, which is a bit concerning because a lot of his threat had been from goals, and Fulham aren't the team that are going to send their fullbacks on overlapping runs into space. There's elements of the team that I love. Obviously, here we go. Dims has popped up just in time. There we go. Thoughts on the team. Look, I like the fact that you've gone very differential. I liked the Edouard pick, although he hadn't scored for like a year. He's like 9 months or something, but he had looked good. And then he scored 2 in 2. Now he's got Leicester, and he's obviously everyone's singing the praises of Zaha. You got to sing the same praises of Edouard, a striker that's in form at 5'5", I think he is.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. I'd say he's a good punt because there's Elise, Eze, Zaha. They've got players in this team that are going to create, and someone has to put the ball in the back of the net. And Edouard has been the player that, even if he's not scoring, has always looked the most threatening of their number 9s. When you're talking about him, AU, Mateta, of last season, Edouard was always the one that caused issues. So I like it as a punt. It's very out there. I don't quite know what his ownership is, but
low.
I might pull it up. It will be very low, but Dim, I like elements of the team. Obviously, next week you're in a pretty good position. You've said next week you're going to go Bailey to Podence back because you started with Podence. You're in that same position as us. Obviously, Emerson on the bench doesn't help because he might come on for 1 point against Liverpool. If Emerson's ever going to start a game anytime soon, it actually could be Liverpool. If David Moyes goes, we're going back into the 5, then that means he plays at left wing back. So there could be a world where Emerson does start. Obviously, there's a midweek fixture for them next week. Oh, no, we are the midweek fixture. So it actually could probably start, to be fair, because Creswell will start against Southampton, because I'd predict that West Ham are going to start 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, whatever they play, against Southampton. But then Emerson to potentially start in the back 5 against Liverpool at Anfield.
Yeah,
I reckon it is. I think we're away this week.
Yeah, I know. So we're at home against Liverpool. We're at home against City, and then the week after
we're home again.
Yeah, I think we got 2 home games in a row.
We're home again. So away at Anfield, Emerson could get a start. He started this morning in the Europa League or Conference League, whatever they're in. So look, worst case scenario, Dim, you've got 10 on the pitch. Fulham who have they got? They've got Villa in game week 12. So having triple Fulham's not bad against Aston Villa, actually, to be fair. Obviously needing that. Mitrovic needs to start. And the other point that I wanted to make, Wolves, I don't know about Wolves. I probably would try and avoid Wolves. If you're trying to get someone at 5 mil, someone I've been singing the praises of, again, Brighton all the way, I'd go Solly March over Podence. Because at least Solly March has looked really threatening. Now, I don't have his data up on screen, but Dame, you might want to pull it up and we might go through JS's team. If you just want to go Fantasy Football Hub and pull up Solly March's data, he's more for me passing the eye test because he is very direct. He's playing at that right wing back position. He's very undervalued at the moment. And I think he's a better option than Pascal Gross currently. And you're saving quite a bit of money. So maybe that's someone to consider. And you're getting that Nottingham Forest fixture as well. So, Dame, you're on screen now.
Yeah.
So that's his outbreak so far. So what's he got there? Points per game, 3.
3.75. Expected points is 4.48. And XG is 0.1 and 0.2, which is not bad for a right back who's playing unfortunately is listed as a midfielder on fantasy. If he was listed as a defender, he would be snailed in so many teams. Thing is that he's been ticking over like a lot of 3.5s and expected points accepted. Yeah. So I think if you're going to bring someone in next week, he's the one to target over Podence because then you can bench him for a couple of weeks and bring him in against Wolves and Villa before the World Cup. Or you take him out and then sub him out for someone else after a 1 week punt if you want to do that as well.
Get that Forest fixture.
Yeah, which is pretty good. Now, if we go back to Dim's team, if you want to bring it up,
Yeah. As I bring it up, do you want to answer that question?
post-break thoughts on Xhaka and Iwobi as differentials. I don't mind Xhaka because he's actually getting in some good areas, which I thought I'd never say in my life. Iwobi,
No, I don't like Iwobi. Everton don't play the same way Arsenal do. The midfielders aren't getting in the same
It's Gordon
areas.
or nothing for me from there. It's Gordon or a defender. But yeah.
Maybe Dwight McNeil.
Yeah, if he gets going, that's probably a good shout. I actually wanted to bring up Dim's team because I actually wanted to say something about the team itself. I actually really love the fact that he's gone free Fulham here for the next 2 weeks. I think that's an incredibly good punt. If the Clover gets up the field and starts up the field, which I think he will for the next 2 weeks because they'll be a bit more adventurous, he's proven this year that he pops up with goals. So I like that. Mitrovic, yeah, Jack is the best CDM this year. That's good. Mitrovic, obviously, I think he's starting this week. It means he's definitely starting next week. And I think Andreas is someone that at the start of the year for 4.5 mil, this was the run we would target where we could play him. So I like it. I really want to play Mitrovic this week, but my midfield's too stacked not to. The only thing I will say about this, Dim, is that you're captaining Son this week. I think it's a big, brave punt against Haaland. I would definitely.
And against Everton, whose defense have been very strong too.
Exactly. I'd be definitely looking at Haaland this week for you there, Dim. My thing is you planning, how much money have you got in the bank? What are you planning to do next week with the blanks? So you're just going to move Haaland, Bruno Cancelo to the bench and have Guy, Emerson and Bailey start, which you're thinking about going to Potence where I would go Solly March. Do you have any other money? Do you have another transfer that you can make for this week or rolling so you have 2 transfers for next week? Because if that's the case, I'd definitely be saying get Emerson out, even though I know he could be playing 5 at the back against Liverpool. Liverpool look like scoring.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
And take Bailey and Emerson out to I would go Solly March and one of the other ones. I have 2 mil keeping all City assets.
I'd
How
go
many
Trossard
transfers? Then. Yeah, man. I'd go Bailey to Trossard and Emerson if you can to one of the defenders from Brighton. And you're in a very good spot, not just for next week. You can then bench those players and fixture swap them when they have their good fixtures for the last couple games of the before the World Cup, and fixture stop them onto the field when needed.
Yeah,
I think that you're in a really good spot. And yes, that means that you can keep Mitrovic, Dakova Reed, and Andreas Pereira. And if you're going to play Mitrovic, I do think there's a world where you can start Andreas because they're going to feed each other.
Yeah, and it just works well. If Mitrovic is in the team, then Andreas looks a lot better. And that's part of the reason. Andreas was the midfielder. That's right. I took Andreas out. Yeah, I said I couldn't remember who I took out for Madison. It's because I went Trent down to Guehi and I just shuffled the money around. Yeah. Which, again, was a -5 or -4 in the end because of that. But anyway, that is, and just before we jump off of Dim's team, Odsonne Edouard is 3% owned. So that is definitely a Damo special there.
That's not a bad little punt. I like that. I like that a lot.
We've got another team ready to go. If you want us to review your team, there's 2 more. I love it, boys.
Yes, boys, get them in.
All right, let's get the camera up again. Let's go. Present, share screen. We want the tab, and I can't do the tab because it's on the wrong thing, so I got to do the whole screen.
Get it on there, Paulie.
There we go. All right, JS, your turn. Well, I got an ad there. Get rid of the ad. All right, Mendy, Cancelo, Saliba, Koulibaly.
Oof.
Before I go any further, Koulibaly or Thiago Silva, I really like. And that's the first thing that also stands out. There's 6 City and Arsenal players in this side. De Bruyne, Martinelli, Maddison, Rashford, Jesus, Tony, Haaland. Trippier on the bench against Man United, I guess, makes sense. If you're going to play Rashford, if anyone's going to score for Man United, it's going to be Rashford at this rate. I love the fact that JS has just gone, yeah, I'm in trouble.
Yep. I agree.
6 players. Now, my thing is, I'm taking Saliba out next week. So that can be one move anyway. He hasn't looked as good anyway.
Have you got any transfers?
It's whether there's... Oh, I just realized this comment's still there. If you've got 2 transfers, you can kind of make it work. Murphy scored, didn't he, at the weekend? But
He
again,
did.
you're not going to bank on Murphy really doing much. Emerson's not been in the team. So you've got two guys on the bench as well that might not be able to save the day. And this is my worry, JS. You got one transfer for next week. Oh, this is dangerous. Now, this is a tough one, Damo. I think we need to put our heads together here and figure it out. So JS has
It's
one
weird.
transfer next week.
I was just doing some Googling then, and I was like, the definition
Saliba's
of
going to be the one to
trouble.
go, I think, because
Yeah.
Emerson's not guaranteed and neither's Murphy. Or Murphy's a... Oh, they got Trippier, sorry. Free hit. I wouldn't want to use the free hit, but if you're missing 5 players, you might have to, I think. If you're going to miss half your team, you might have to just pull it. And you've just said, I've half given up. Don't give up, JS. It's definitely salvageable because you're not going to be... This is the thing. You're not going to be the only person that's in this position that's got triple City, triple Arsenal. Now, if you haven't made a move this week... I still wouldn't want to take any of the Arsenal boys out against Leeds, though. That's the problem.
If you haven't made a move this week with one transfer, roll it. So then you've got 2 transfers for next week. And then you make your 2 transfers to get to 11 or /10 and maybe get a better player in. Saliba's the one that has to come out.
Go.
Yep. And then from there, I would probably say De Bruyne.
And then you can get Foden in the week after.
Yeah, and De Bruyne down to a Trossard, 1 week punt on Trossard out to Foden is what I would do. I would go Saliba to one of the
it could either be Brighton or Crystal Palace. I don't want to keep saying, I don't want to keep telling everyone to get Brighton players next week, but it is the best advice. Like that is the advice.
They got the biggest clean sheet odds for next week.
If anyone's going to ask us this week, I want to bring in a 4.5 million defender. Or I need a mid-price midfielder. We're going to say Webster, Veltman, Dunk, March, Trossard.
Yeah.
They're the 5 players that we're going to recommend. Now,
and don't sell Gross.
I wouldn't buy Gross now.
I wouldn't buy him, but if you've got him on your bench, don't sell him right now.
Yeah, I'm just going to... Well, I need him next week anyway, but...
Yeah.
Other than that, JS, I really like your team. Mendy's a big issue, though, because Kepa's playing as well.
Yeah.
And Ward, I don't know. I've benched Guehi this week because I expect goals tomorrow night at 10 o'clock our time.
I do too.
Crystal Palace and Leicester, I expect goals in this game. So I don't like the thought of Ward in goal. But I've said that before, and he's had a couple returns in the last couple weeks. So, yeah, you just got to hold on for week 16, JS, and a bit of a restructure, I think, and get to that World Cup. But look, end of the day,
team's okay.
The team's fine. It's just
it's a good call.
Obviously, next week's gonna hurt, or midweek's gonna hurt. But you're in an okay space, and you're gonna have to ride next week. You're not gonna be fantastic, but as I've said already, you are definitely not the only person that's rolling triple Arsenal, triple City at the moment. Any final thoughts, Dane, before we move to the next one?
I'm just trying to think after game week, the blank next week. If you hold all of them, then you've got some really good fixtures as Paulie's now getting the next link up, and that's what we're looking at. No, you're all right.
Nah, I flicked off. I didn't realize that was going to happen.
No, you're all right. Just trying to think. I wouldn't be holding De Bruyne. That's the one. If you're going to make a move this week, if you're going to make a move and you wanted to make one move this week and one move next week, De Bruyne down to someone else, but I wouldn't want to do it before Liverpool. I wouldn't want to move any of that team. I think this team for this week is good enough. Now, Ward and obviously Mendy, there's other issues than goalkeepers. At the end of the day, if it's your goalkeeper, it's an issue.
And just ride Ward.
Just ride it.
Because Leicester's fixtures aren't dreadful either.
No, they're not. That's the reason why I have him on the bench. Will he be on my bench on wildcard? Probably not. But
same.
Because I've got ideas for what my backup keeper and my actual keeper will be next coming up. Saliba goes, so we tick that off. Is then a question of, do you want to run with Bugger on the bench? Because that means then you got only 9 players that can start, Emerson with a question mark. Then there's 2 ways to go about this.
Sorry, Damo, we've got some breaking news here.
Breaking news. Nuno is in talks to go back to Wolves, and Wolves players should be targeted.
Their fixtures are unbelievable.
If Nuno can get him back, Raul Jimenez, hello, my buddy. Hello, my friend. Hello,
For me, it's Johnny.
Yeah, that's
it.
Defender.
Johnny. At 4-4 or something that Johnny is.
Yeah.
I would take him. Anyway, we'll
Yep.
deal with that probably in a short coming up very soon. Make sure you subscribe to FPL Departer so you don't miss
Short's
it.
coming. Short's coming.
Anyway, continue.
My question is there, JS. There's two ways to go about this. There's the logical way that next week you make a couple changes. De Bruyne comes out, Saliba comes out. You get the 10 playing players, 11 playing players. It's fine. I actually think you can go this way. Ride the 9 and get the best 9 available to you. Saliba comes out. I don't know how much money you have in the bank, but I would assume by looking at this team, the fact you got Murphy there too, there's a bit of money in the bank. I think there's a world where you just take the fact you got 9, you get Emerson out for a better defender. Maybe it's one of the, Brighton boys. You ride the 9 because that allows you to still have Cancelo, De Bruyne, Martinelli, Jesus, and Haaland for the really good run into the World Cup. Ride a really bad week next week with 9 players, but keep De Bruyne for the run through, which might outscore that, which I think is an option. I think as much as next week you might be in pain with 9 players, this week you're good. In the week after that, you're still going to have the Haaland, De Bruyne, your Jesus, your Martinelli, your Cancelo. It's not too bad.
And both Arsenal and City have really good run into the World Cup too. So
exactly,
you don't want to lose everybody, but yeah, good analysis there.
It just depends. Do you want to have 10/11 playing players next week, or do you want to ride one really bad week knowing that if De Bruyne pops off and you still got him, then yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, let's move it on. We've got another one. All good. Oh, that's all right. Good timing, JS, because it's time for us to move on to Russo.
Here we go.
Who I think's pulled the wild card this week. I'm pretty sure
he has.
And similar advice. So Russo, at least he's changed up his team quite a bit from
when we first saw
the one that he first sent through, which was quite concerning with the amount of City and Arsenal players that were in that team.
Yep.
Now, I look at this side, and again, on paper, it looks really good. My main concerns here are St. Max fitness issues at the moment. Has been out of the team for quite a while, and again, not really he featured off the bench last week for the first time. Now, I know he really likes St. Max as a player, and I don't want to discredit or tell people not to pick a player because, if they really like them, then it's your team and do what you want. But not right now for me. My issue with St. Max in this side is we don't know what that Newcastle attack's going to look like when Isaac, St. Max, Wilson, Almiron are all fit. And that's my concern. It's not a guarantee that it's going to be St. Max on the left, Almiron on the right, because we also need to find room for their marquee striker and their most prolific goal scorer. So I would be avoiding Newcastle attack at the moment. The fixtures aren't fantastic for them anyway. So if you can, you've already got Trossard, so we can't recommend Trossard again.
Yep.
But I'd be doing whatever I can to get Zaha in this side. I know it's very template, but you're looking at probably 0.7 in the bank, and the way you're doing it is you're not bringing Perisic in. You take Perisic down, you move St. Max up to Zaha, and you get there easily. Other than that, I really like this. Guaita to Ramsdale can be a really good 1-2 punch from your goalkeepers as well.
Yep.
It actually makes things worse for next week because you're rolling with bloody 5 City Arsenal players into next week coming on to a wild card. So I don't think, you got Guaita, I guess, that can play next week. So Ramsdale's not as bad.
Martinelli out, Jesus out, Haaland out, and that's everyone.
So it's 4.
Yeah, he's fine.
Well, it's 4 out. So you're down to 10. So you're playing with 10 next week. And that's if Kulusevski's back. If that team can get on the pitch every week, I like it a lot. I think the only real red flag the 2 red flags are those 2 midfielders next to each other, Anthony and St. Max. Again, high risk, high reward. I don't know. I just can't get around the Man United attack. And St. Max, there's just question marks on what Newcastle's going to line up like. So, look, if you're prepared to take the punt on both of those players, then by all means, go for it. Because end of the day, if everyone does exactly what we say and everyone has the same team as us, then it's not going to be as enjoyable either. So I don't want to steer people away from what we're doing. But obviously, Damo and I have sat down and looked at data and analysed content, and we've come to our decisions. Now, whether everyone does that, that's up to you guys, and whether you guys want to play FPL is fine. If you go based on those flair players that you enjoy watching, then that's perfectly fine too. So I like this team from I want to put 11 players on a park and play football, because that would be a real entertaining fantasy team to watch. If you're watching all of those games, you're watching Cancelo, James, Trippier, Martinelli, Trossard, Anthony, St. Max, Tony,
It's
Jesus,
good.
Haaland. That is a really solid side that scores goals. But Anthony and St. Max are the big question marks for me.
I'm going to say that my biggest question mark is neither of them. That man, Dejan Kulusevski, has done one thing and one thing only this year.
Yeah,
It was the start of this year, in game week 1. He should not be around any side at the minute because you do not know what you're going to get from Spurs.
Yeah.
I would be saying, mate, his name is Bowen. He's finally found form. His fixtures to the World Cup are good.
Even Zaha.
Zaha, another one. St. Max, I agree with Paul. As much as I love St. Max, and don't get me wrong, I've been seeing it from the hills. The things I would do to see St. Max wear the Liverpool shirt coming off the bench in the 70th minute would be unreal. I would do so many things to see that happen. It never will. And I love the guy, and I want to bring him in because it makes me watching Newcastle more fun.
Yeah.
Wouldn't touch it. Zaha, Bowen, probably the way to go there.
Surely
frees up a little bit of funds.
Surely if it's Bowen, or you just find a way to get to Foden the week after, like, you know what I mean? Like,
and this is how you get the Foden the week after. Downgrade Perisic. He is such a risk at the minute. You don't know if he's starting. You don't know if he's benching. The week you think he's going to start, he gets benched. The week you think he's going to get benched, he starts. If
you want a Spurs defender, you're going Romero. If that is a Spurs defender, you're going Romero or Dyer. But you're going Romero because he's cheaper.
Yeah,
and
probably
the centre backs are locked in. If you really want a Spurs defender, I wouldn't touch Spurs at all. Similar to Liverpool.
If I was going to punt on a Spurs defender, Perisic being a punt, which he is right now, I would punt on Doherty because he's 4.8 and the return potential is as high as Perisic.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
So I would be punting that way. I would personally get Perisic out to one of something a bit safer.
And then get rid of Emerson too.
Yeah.
And you're not having to really ride that.
Exactly. This is where I go Perisic down to one of the Brighton defenders, Emerson up to Gay or Anderson, leaves you a touch of money in the bench, downgrade Kulusevski to Zaha. St. Maximin easily goes up the Bowen, and it still gives you a touch of money if you need to take out someone else.
Well, Anthony can turn into Foden the week after of 13.
Yeah, if they get you enough money, if the money's there. But even if it's not, and it means you can't get Foden in for another week or whatever, so be it, because it is what it is.
There's ways there.
But there's ways there as well. I just feel like that team, as much as it's not as exciting because it's not St. Max and it's not Anthony, even though I'm saying keep Anthony because I think he's not a bad pick, etc. I just don't think you can ride Perisic and Dejan Kulusevski at the moment at all.
Yeah. Actually, Rods has come up with a good point there. What about Saka after? I like him after.
I do too. I think after
I can't get him in.
He's nailed pale with pens. I think just with the blank, I wouldn't bring him now. After the blank, definitely a bit more of a viable option.
Madison down to him is a great shout.
Yeah. For me, it's out of Madison or Foden. Madison to Foden or Saka. I think
you want Foden
upside
first.
The Foden than the Saka. Can you get both?
Yeah. I'd line him up for both, man. I like Saka's start. He started really slow, but I think because there's been so much attention to Jesus and Odegaard and Martinelli, it was going to be time. And obviously, like, he's at the back post for that goal, and the penalty's the penalty. Like, he's a penalty, whatever. Like, I think more. Obviously, I don't think the penalty was there. Well, we don't have. It's not a PD Sports podcast, but end of the day, getting the knowledge that Saka's going to take it when Jesus won it is big.
It's huge for us.
So that makes me want to go after Saka, and he's not going to go up in price anytime soon. So we'll leave it there. Russ Bus. So definitely, you still got some time to sort that one out. Let's get rid of the Discord because you guys don't need to see all of that. But we can open the link, which you guys can see. And here is our boy Rods' team. And look at the zooming on this one. I love this. So
love it.
Rods' team: Melier, Cancelo, Trippier, James. So very similar defense to Russell. Zaha, Rodrigo, De Bruyne, Martinelli, Jesus, Tony, Haaland with Ward, Fofana, Dallo, and Andreas.
That team's stuck in game week 7.
Game week 7.
Is that a game week 7, game week 6 screenshot?
It's pretty similar. I don't mind it though. Other than Fofana, because Fofana, he's gone long term. So I don't know what you're doing there, Rods.
Yeah.
But other than Fofana, you're in a good spot, like for next week. So you got 4 players that are 5 actually that aren't playing. So again, it's not ideal, but if you can get Fofana and De Bruyne, what do you do here? Because do you just roll with the 5, or are we gonna look to?
Fofana has to come out. I think that's a must.
He should have been gone long ago. Surely you've had time to get rid of him. He's been out for like 3 weeks.
Doesn't want to take an 84 to take out Fofana. I took a punt on Rodrigo. When did you bring Rodrigo in?
I was thinking about it last week. But I don't know. He's playing in the 10 though. When he was playing well this year, he was playing up front, and that's the difference.
Now he's playing back of the line, and it's moved.
And I watched him last week, and I didn't like it. So
Aronson's gone back as well, and it's not good.
Yeah, so I wouldn't go near Leeds' attack because Bamford's Bamford, and yes, when he's fit, he can score goals. But how long is he going to be fit for? Rodrigo in the 10's not the same Rodrigo that was up front as well. He's not going to have those 12, 14 shots in 3 weeks because the chances aren't just going to be there. But look, it is what it is. Rod's brought him in the first week back. I would have waited to see. But end of the day, Leeds' fixtures aren't the worst. I mean, Arsenal's not great. Dallo and Andreas at least will give you some coverage next week. But next week's going to be a bit of a roughie for your Rods, I think, with those 5 not playing. And have you got? So you're saying you didn't want to take a -4 for Fofana, which tells me you've made a move this week already. So you're going to have
transfer this week.
Yeah, surely Fofana to Gueye had to be the priority. But anyway, it is what it is.
Who did you do this week, Rods? I'm really curious because I can't work out who it is.
Zaha?
Might be Zaha from someone to Zaha.
Yeah.
Still reckon would have been getting Fofana, would have been the sub and made. Do think it's probably maybe worth the -4 to get Fofana out for a playing defender for the next 2 weeks. Yeah.
Because at least Guaye's 4-3, I think. So
how have you held Melier this long? That's a good call. Have you played your wild card? Have you not paid your wild card?
If you haven't played it.
If you haven't played your wild card, you're playing it right now.
Wait, what do you mean? Can do Fofana to Gueye. Before you do that, have you played your wild card?
Have you played your wild card? Because this team is stuck in game week 7.
That's probably a good shout to go wild card if you can. I wouldn't free hit, but if you've got the wild card, that's like literally what my team was in about game week.
I wild carded early. Okay, so you wild carded early.
Oh, where does it say that?
No, he said it in chat.
Where? Before?
No, YouTube chat.
Oh, there it is. All right, mine comes through a bit later then.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Look, I don't know.
I'll definitely be taking Fofana out right now for Gueye. No -4. That's a big one because you're going to get a playing defender for the next 2 weeks, or Dunk or Webster, whichever way you want to go. Probably Gueye for the next 2 is better than what that.
No,
it's close.
Brentford versus Leicester is the fixture.
Yeah, I can see where Tony scores, and it saves you playing Tony against a defender where I don't have a Tony. So
he doesn't have to play this week though.
Yeah, you can
because you can put Dalot first sub.
Yeah, which I would do. So
then you're going Brighton.
Yeah,
at that point
I could do that. And then I'm just thinking for next week what I would do. To be fair, you're another one of these spots where if you want to hold De Bruyne through, hold him through and just risk having one less on the field next week, or take him out to a Bowen, save the money, and then use that money the week after to get back to whoever you want. Allows you to probably even upgrade Rodrigo to Foden after that.
Yeah, because then you've got the free City spot there as well.
Yup.
Nice. So that's probably where we're at there, Rods. Thanks, everyone, for sending in your teams. I don't think anyone else has jumped in really since then. So
I don't think so.
Any final thoughts, Damo, before we wrap things up tonight?
Do not panic.
Good.
Things are so close. Usually by now you start seeing people
6
getting
points
away.
Last week. Damo was 2 million game week rank between us. 6 points.
And you want to know why? We all thought when Salah was a lock-on captain last week last year and the year before that things were close and taking out.
Rods. Felt like I was getting bullied just then. It's not getting bullied. It's just that we don't know. The team looked like what we used to have. Maybe we're having PTSD because it's what got us bloody.
It got us in trouble.
Our team was like that without Haaland. That was what the issue was.
Yeah.
Now, worth taking a -4 this week. No, because De Bruyne could have a
I think De
big.
Bruyne could go bang. Yeah, I'm with Paul.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth the -4, but
Could be worth taking him out next week for
Yeah.
a Bowen or along those
yeah,
lines.
one of those other guys.
But yeah,
Anyway,
back to my
don't panic.
point.
Yeah,
Don't panic. We thought last year and the year before with Salah, things were close and people captaining him at like 90% effective ownership. It's 180% effective ownership at the minute for Haaland. Basically, if you do not captain him, you lose rank. No matter what happens. There will be a week where someone does not captain Haaland and they pick bombs off and Haaland doesn't score.
does a Bobby against Bournemouth and
Yeah,
has a
something
20-point
stupid.
haul.
And
Yeah.
you fly up 3 million rank. So be it. With it being like that, and then everyone else having the likes of James, everyone has at the minute Zaha, everybody at the minute has
Maddison.
Mitrovic who's not playing. Everybody seems to have Maddison in now. Everybody seems to have Trippier. No matter what Trippier does, he's mostly owned. You know, it's so congested. No point panicking. If you can keep getting your team in a good spot for the next few weeks, and that's what I'm telling myself, I rose up 2.7 mil worth of rank in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, 2.4, 2.7, one of the two. If it's 6 points between me and Paul, and it was 2 million rank difference last week, you were just staying solid and not panicking. You will climb rank no matter where you are. I know I've been saying I want to finish top 1 mil from being outside the 5.7 mil. It may sound wrong, but I actually feel like I could nearly be inside the top mil by the World Cup because it's so tight. If you get it right. Do I think I will be? No, because I'm planning on rolling a transfer and having 10 players next week. But that's how tight it is. I would not.
We're only a
panic just
third of the
yet.
way through the season as well. Like that's the other thing. Like people will drop off. This is the other thing. This is what I noticed. People will drop off, especially through that World Cup. If they've had a shit start to the season, they won't come back. They might put the wild card in. They won't do the research. The wild card will blow up and they'll go, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
So there's going to be hope post World Cup and games are going to be going thick and fast. And the only people that are going to really capitalize are those people that are watching content, that are looking at data, that are doing all those things post the World Cup. Another big opportunity to go mental up in the ranking. So if you're like us in that 3 million bracket, and even if you're further away, making the right decisions is going to help you just skyrocket. Not everyone's going to get on Phil Foden after the next week, which everyone probably should because he just looks to be, he's started every single game in the Premier League this season. That was the issue. We said at the start of the year, I loved Foden. I loved Bowen. I didn't pick him. Foden, didn't know if he was locked. Bowen, the fixtures were dreadful. You had Foden for a period of time, but then he got dragged after 45 minutes and we buckled.
Yes. That's the scary part. Damo doesn't wildcard, by the way, and I wildcard in game week 9 or this game week, which I was planning in. I'm currently 70 points better off, approximately, which is mental. That's because I missed 2 hat-tricks. If I put 70 points towards my rank, I would go from being 123 points outside the top 10K to what?
Yeah.
Probably about 40, which puts me inside the top 500K.
Yeah.
That's how close it is.
And that's how I was too. You know, like.
I sit here today and live FPL tells me I'm 123 points off the top 10K. There's 3/4 of FPL to go. Do I think I can get to the top 10K? No, but
it's a good target to have.
Only 123 points. That is makeable over the rest of the season.
100%. Good question here. Thoughts on Fofana to Castagni? I'd be waiting for a press conference, though, because he came off with a pretty serious eye injury last week, which is why he got the clean sheet bonus, because as soon as he came off, they conceded. But I spoke about him last week, didn't I? I really like him as an attacking option for Leicester, but you're not going to get clean sheets out of him. You're really not. So you're really hoping for an attacking return from him, which is doable, but I still prefer Guehi, I think. What do you reckon, Damo? Guehi or Castagna?
I prefer Guehi. I actually think if you're going to go for a Leicester one, Justin.
He's probably more likely to get an attacking return, isn't he?
Yeah.
Is he more
But
expensive, though? I think he's a bit more expensive.
yeah,
Like
Castania's
0.2.
one. If you get good word that he's going to start, I don't mind the punt. And at the end of the day,
Less
it's
risk.
not the worst one. But yeah, I'd be going, especially with defenders at the minute. The fact that all the premiums are buckling and then they're not playing next week. James could be out for this game week, next game week. I think getting in people that are nailed on to play at the minute is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. Get minutes, get players on the pitch, and cross your fingers and hope they return, because that's where we're at. But I think we're both, I'd like to say, in relatively good positions at the moment.
I like to feel that.
I'm very confident. I look at my team and there's not anyone on there that I'm like, oh, I have to play him.
Yeah.
Like, if they don't return, they don't return. I'm at that point now of playing FPL where I go into most game weeks going, I think I've made the right decision based on logic. There was
Yep.
one decision this year that wasn't made in that vein, and it was panicking to the Pep news on Erling Haaland. And that only came about because we know of the injury history of Erling Haaland. So we
Yeah.
probably got in our own heads there and went, shit. Let's get ahead of the curve. And then he went boom, boom. And the worst part about it was he was coming off of a semi-blank. He got an assist the week prior to we did that. So we're like, oh, maybe there's something there. But there we go. That's probably a nice way to round it all off. Dim goes hoping for green arrows for all of us. That's what we love about doing this. We love that we can have the interaction with everybody here in particular, because you guys are obviously all the ones that are in the Discord that are here live. We've had a few new subs. So if you are watching this as a VOD or as a post recording, make sure you're getting down in the description. I'll have the link to our Discord and our socials, but I'll also have the code for our Premier League Classic League. I'm going to leave that open all season, I think. I think that's the best thing we can do. The more people we can get in it, the better. We've got some really exciting things in the pipeline, hopefully. Touch wood, that I think you guys are really going to love. I can't say it this week, but I'm hoping by next week I'll be able to announce to you something really special for the Departed YouTube channel. So hopefully things will be moving in a good direction. And in that, those green arrows, we're all going up, baby. That's what we want to see. That's what we're here for. Make sure you're in the Discord, guys, as well throughout the weekend. Make sure your teams are set tonight if you're in Australia, because that deadline's about 3 o'clock in the morning our time. So make sure your teams are set. But I'm not touching my team. I'm looking at it right now on my other monitor, and that's how it's going to stay.
Yeah, same here.
I'm not doing anything else. I've made my -4, and hopefully we can cover those points. But Damo, any final words before we wrap it up?
Yeah, only thing is I've got James starting, Andreas as my first sub, and Dunk as my second, because he will automatically summon if James doesn't play.
Oh yeah, it's a good shout, because that makes sense.
And then it means Bournemouth will be the one that Andreas against Bournemouth will be the one that comes off the bench if Mitrovic doesn't play or whatever, instead of Dunk.
Nice. I like that thinking there. All right. Well, once again, thanks for everyone for joining us tonight. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. In particular, make sure you get those bell notifications on so you know when we're live or when I post a longer form content. And we will see you all hopefully very soon. Actually, it should be a pretty short turnaround because we've got midweek action this week.
We do.
So it'll be a Monday or a Tuesday stream, hopefully, but we'll definitely update you guys in the near future, and we'll catch you all very soon. Bye.